Okay. Are you actually going to record at 30 FPS? Oh my good lord, it is. Thank finally. I don't know what I did. I reset a bunch of shit and like cleaned off a bunch of other shit. Now it's working. So hopefully we shouldn't have any more issues with jitteriness and shit.
Sounds good.
All right. We are on episode 46. Sure, we're going with that. All right, you guys ready?
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, here we go. Welcome to episode 46 of the Secret Cow Level podcast. Once again, my name is Mo. With me, I have Corey.
Yep.
And I've got Derek.
Howdy, folks.
Derek is Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy currently because he can't do video. He can only do audio. So that's why he's got that going on over there. It's been quite a while since we've recorded. We've all been busy being adults and other shit going on.
Yeah.
Let's start with one of you. What have you guys been up to in the past weeks or so that we haven't recorded?
Well, as for me, I took a week off last week from work so that I could basically just take a break from it because I was getting pretty burnt out and not being able to do any of the things I wanted to do was really eating at me. Mm-hmm. So took a week off, went to a couple tournaments, played in a crew battle one, had a lot of fun. And also, one of my roommates got Diablo 3 for the PS4, which, if you don't know, has shared screen multiplayer, where you can have up to 4 people, all on the same screen, Diabloing away. Which isn't bad. There's obviously, it doesn't seem as good as playing on the PC, because inventory management when you're sharing a screen is just awful. But outside of that, the actual gameplay is pretty much exactly the same. You walk up to a bunch of enemies, you do your rotation of buttons, and then you clean up. And that's pretty much it. Pretty fun. I didn't actually play Diablo 3 outside of the level 10 trial that you get to have for free with it.
Yeah.
And actually getting to the in-game content, which we blew to in 2 sessions. Like, we did half the story in one night and then got to the first Nephilim Rift on the second night. So that was pretty cool, and just started grinding out stuff from there. By the way, I have terrible luck. All of them got set pieces and cool shit, and I'm just like, a rock, a rock, a rock. Like, I get something on occasion, but it's not even build specific. It's just like, yep, there's green numbers. Okay, gotcha. That's about it. But still fun. Doing a barbarian and doing dual wielding because I can. Outside of that, I also finally hunkered down and knocked out the rest of the Binding of Isaac. The only thing I've got left is the boss rush for the double character. I was able to beat the game on hard mode on the difficult path, and that was fucking terrible. But I was able to do it, so I got that knocked out. Don't have to worry about that anymore. And I'll soon be done with that game, which means that I can go buy the DLC for it and play all the new content, because that was just a mod. And as well polished as it is, it will be nice to actually play the DLC content that came out a couple months ago.
Right.
I also been playing more Dead Cells because that developer continues to upload new stuff for it. It's like every other week there is not massive, but there's a substantial update for it every other week, and they do constant patches throughout the week. So every time I load it up, it's like a different game. Nice. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but there's constant updates to it. Yeah. So that's cool. Sadly, I couldn't get Gigantic to work with me. I don't know why. Arc fails to load. They're like loader thing. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I've tried uninstalling, reinstalling it, and trying to get anything to work with it, and it just says nope. tries to load the game and it crashes over and over again.
That's
So
super weird.
When you get it through Steam, does it launch through Arc, or did you get it on Arc instead of Steam?
I did both just to see. Because when I did it through Steam, it was failing to load the game, and then I tried to do it straight through them, and it was failing to load the game. So I don't know what the problem is, because I can obviously play other games.
Yeah. About the only negative thing about Gigantic that I've seen is that they have some problems with server stability. Because they did during during the beta and the alpha and the beta, and I was hoping that would polish out, especially after they got picked up by Arc, which seems like it was a polished platform, but maybe not. I don't know. I'd check out their forums. It's probably a bunch of known issues, but it may not be helpful.
I also saw that Fortnite came out, and that was a game that was in the beta. I am pretty disappointed with what they did with it, because it looks like it is a game that you have to pay to play, and then it has microtransactions up the wazoo inside of it. And that is just awful. It should be criminal.
I heard that it was pay to play before release, and then at release it goes free to play, with the microtransactions still involved. It is still currently
paid early access, which that's a different sin. But if they go free to play post full launch, then I guess that's not as bad.
Yeah, apparently that's their overall goal, at least with that.
It's so silly, though, because the mechanics in the game, it's like any other free-to-play game where, you can play it without putting any money in and you can get pretty far, but you hit a difficulty wall where if you don't put money into it, you're basically going to have to grind for weeks to do what someone else can do in a day. So it's kind of lame, and the fact that you have to pay just to access it, and then they still have a system in place where it's pay to win, kind of shitty. I mean, the game itself, still think it's pretty good. It's pretty fun to play. Not entirely intuitive and can be a little bit grindy, but hey, that's like pretty much every game now.
Yeah.
And as far as its like actual game loop, it's pretty rewarding. You go and you play a basic tower defense, wave enemy spawning kind of, wouldn't say challenge, but I guess maybe that's the best way of putting it. Usually some other objectives on the map, like save these survivors or protect this thing, and then just survive waves of zombies. It's pretty fun. If that's your thing, I'd say check it out. Maybe you should wait until it's fully free to play so that you don't have to double down on buying access and then buying the pay to win, but either way, I'd take a look at it if you haven't seen their YouTube videos. We'll not put a link in the YouTube video, so don't even worry about looking for it. Just search it.
Fans of the show already know that's not going to happen. I've been watching a bunch of YouTubers play it, and I really want to play it because it looks like Borderlands meets a tower defense game. And I like both of those concepts.
The writing for it's pretty good. It's right there. I wouldn't say right there with Borderlands because it's not as narrative driven, but the writing that is there is pretty humorous and it'll keep you wanting to invest in the characters and play a little bit more.
Okay.
But again, like I said, you might want to just wait until it goes fully free to play because paying to access it and then also being stuck with the paywall is a little bit ridiculous. Aside from playing games, I also started watching the show called Star vs. the Forces of Evil, which is a brilliantly cute show. It's super adorable. Girl is a princess from another dimension. She gets a magic wand. She immediately fucks up a lot of shit with it, and so her parents go, "You need to go to a safer dimension," and they send her to Earth as an exchange student, basically, and shenanigans ensue. But it's so adorable. She's so cute. And at the same time, she could be a total cunt, but that just makes her more believable because she's a teenager. She's not like a total Mary Sue. She's still kind of like dumb as rocks, but she's a like warrior princess at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I'd say to check it out. They just finished up, not just, but they've finished 2 seasons, and there's a 3rd season that's currently being peddled out right now. So I'd say check that out if you like Steven Universe kind of stuff, like the happy, good feelies, along with funniness and cuteness. Not exactly the same brand of that, but I would say in that kind of general ball of stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much everything I've done for the past couple weeks.
What about you, Derek? What have you been up to?
Not a whole hell of a lot, besides life stuff that's boring, and I won't bother with that here. I put down Summoner's War.
Oh, really? That's surprising.
It's just... Yeah. I played it for a while and then dropped it for like a year or so until my friends were like, "Hey, we're playing this game. You should try it out." I'm like, "Fuck, you guys play that fucking game? Damn it." But then one of my friends, or a couple of my friends, stopped playing it a while ago, and I don't know. Mostly though, progress is so goddamn slow. It is a massive time sink, especially if you're free to play.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're not, but way more if you are. So. I don't know, not bagging on the game. Some people enjoy the shit out of it. I certainly did for a while, but put it down for now. Not necessarily dropping it forever, but put it down. And I, at the same time, remembered that when I got my new phone, because my old one just died suddenly, which is apparently a thing that model of LG does sometimes. When they update it, sometimes it just doesn't work anymore. And that happened. So I got a new, shinier phone, which is nice. But I remembered that I hadn't re-downloaded Serial M2, which is an awesome... I was going to say little game, because it's cheap, but it's an awesome, cheap, massive game. I mentioned it a while back, at least
is that the one where you collect the monsters?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a super high level... I'm going to breeze through its features because it's fucking deep as shit mechanically. It's a game designed for folks who like really, really complex RPGs. It is at high level. It's a monster collecting team-based RPG, not like JRPG style, more like old school Western RPGs. You have your hub world, which is the castle of the kingdom you're the ruler of, and you can teleport out to various different areas. There's a whole bunch of different ones. They each have a theme that's based off of the god that rules that area, and you do stuff there, but you bump into roaming teams of enemy monsters, and you can collect cores from them when you beat them up, sort of Pokemon style, except you don't capture them. You still have to kill them. But you can use those cores to summon monsters. You can also take your monsters and breed them, which pretty much just combines them because the two you breed go away and you get an egg of a new monster. And it combines their gene strength, so you get a stronger version, either of the same monster or certain monsters when they pair together will make a third totally different monster, which is how you discover new ones you haven't seen before.
Right.
And also, though, the breeding system is how you make super, super strong monsters because you keep breeding them together and their gene strength keeps adding. And you get you breed like 2 plus zeros, you get like a plus 3 or 4, and you breed those together, and eventually you get like a plus 700 and something.
Oh, wow.
With way higher stats. But each monster has its own unique trait, which is a totally individual thing that's special from all the other stuff you can put on monsters. But each monster also, you can equip an artifact to it, and the artifact will have either a bunch of stats on it. You can level up the artifacts and customize the stats that are on them and upgrade the stats. Or they can also, besides stats, can have like effects like afflict bleed on hit, or gain ward when hit, or you're immune to blind. Or you can equip traits to it. So you can just give a monster a second trait from another monster if you get the item to put that trait on an artifact. And each monster has a handful of spell gem slots, and you can equip spell gems to them so they can cast that spell in combat. And the spell gems also have random rolled traits, and you can eventually customize and power up those. So to be like reduced mana cost, chance to cast when you attack, chance to cast at start of battle, crap like that. And so you have your party of 6 monsters, and each one you can customize their artifact, which has stats and effects and possibly additional traits on them. And you customize what spells they have and what special effects those spells have. And the combination of all 6 of them together in your party, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Combine that with a no level cap at all, and randomly generated levels forever. and it has pretty much infinite replayability and nearly infinite customization and growth.
I'm guessing there's no real in-game then? It just kind of keeps going out?
There is kind of, actually, and they sort of went the... This is really... I'll make the parallel between... this is basically the... it's... My brain's blanking. Path of Exile of, like, monster collecting RPGs. Like, everything is customizable and advanceable, and everything has a random roll that you can re-roll using items. And the in-game content is a lot like maps in Path of Exile, where you get items called sigils, I think is what they're called. Something like that. And that basically summons a special high-level fight, kind of like a mini-boss fight, but also there's some sort of themed rules against you, like enemies automatically dodge all attacks, and enemies are immune to these 3 debuffs. And they're really strong, and stuff like that. But when you beat those, you get higher level stuff. And then there's also there is a story. It's just sort of a loose thing put in there, where essentially it's just every, you beat it and it'll be like, you need to go, find this powerful enemy that is coming toward the kingdom. They're on, level 15, because all the zones will level up and you can go to higher and higher level zones. And it'd be like, so when you go to the next X level, you bump into that, that boss fight instead of the level. And that just sort of continues. But I know eventually you can like fight, because all the zones have a god in each of them. There's like 7 or 8 different gods, and while you're in the zone, you do quests as well that gives you favor with them, and you can spend that favor on basically like feats, essentially, to buff up your party and give special abilities based on what your class is. But I know eventually later on you can like fight those gods as like boss fights and get special things from them as well. And then there's a system to basically put debuffs on yourself or buffs on enemies to just make the game harder and also increase your loot drops. And that's random rollable and re-rollable, like everything in the game. Pretty much every single thing in the game has like 5 slots on it that are all random rollable, and you can re-roll all that shit with items. Pretty much a lot like Path of Exile. But it's pretty sweet. It's got very, very old school, like low res pixel graphics, but I find that charming more than ugly. And it's on mobile and on Steam. On mobile, it's $5. On Steam, it's $10. And they have a cloud that you can store your saves on to basically pass them back and forth between your PC and your phone.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so you can sit at home and play on your computer, and you're like, well, I'll just save and then upload it to the cloud, and then later on, when I'm wherever the fuck, I can just pop it up on my phone and load my save from the cloud, which is really cool. So that also makes it worth spending $15 to have it on both. Right. If that's the thing that works well for you. I just play on my phone, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like they've updated it and added more and more content in. The game's a couple years old now, and I think they, within the past 6 months, added new stuff. So, obviously, someone put a crap load of work and passion into it, and it shows. It's a really great app game.
Nice. So, Corey was talking about things she watched recently. I watched the Castlevania anime. It's not really anime.
Yeah, it's anime.
Is it? Would you consider that anime? Okay.
Yeah, it's anime.
That is actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's got this kind of Saturday morning cartoon kind of vibe to it, just the way it's drawn and things like that. Animations during fights.
It is definitely not for children.
It's definitely no. Please
don't get that impression.
No. There's blood and guts. A guy gets his eye taken out by a whip. Like it's pretty gruesome. What I was surprised at, how how fast things escalate, because in the first 30 minutes, like, they set the story up. Like, so Dracula's like, fuck you humans are awful. And this one chick, I forget what her name was, she goes up to Dracula, she's like, hey, I'm a scientist, I want to look at your inventions. And he's like, no, fuck you. And she's like, no, fuck you, let me see your inventions. He's like, okay, I guess that's fine.
I like your spunk.
Right. And so, like, he shows her all these inventions, and then they fall in love at some point in time during all this, right? And she's like, humans aren't so bad. And he's like, I'll take, I don't know, let me try this. And so they date or get married, or something happens when they're in a relationship. He's coming back from, like, the store years later. He's like, honey, I'm home. And she's dead, because the church is like, you're a heretic because you've got all these inventions from the devil. And so they killed her. And then he was like, oh yeah, humans, you are kind of bad people. Fuck you all. And so then he goes to the church and he's like, all right, you all got 1 year to get out of this place. I will raze it to the ground. 1 year. And then he, like, disappears. And everyone's like, oh, that was odd. Okay. And then bitches still stay there after a year. He comes back and he's like, why the fuck are you still here? Boom! And, like, Armageddon happens and shit. And this is all within the first 30 minutes of the show. It's amazing.
Yeah. It fucking takes... Like, at first, I thought it was going to be an anime about Dracula.
Right.
Because of that first episode. I was like, oh, damn, are we going to see this from his perspective? That's a really interesting take on it. And then the second episode, it's like, hey, Belmonts. And you're like, oh. oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
that makes sense. All right. But that's cool, the Trevor Belmont, the way they characterized him.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. You can get behind him. He's a scrappy kind of anti-hero. So yeah, it's pretty good. Only 4 episodes, and if you know Castlevania at all, it's the story leading up to 3. So Super Castlevania 3 is what the story is going to be. This first season is basically the prologue. Season 2 is probably going to be the full game. Mm-hmm. And then if there's a season 3, it may go to the next game after that, which would be Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, and that's the one thing It ends very anticlimactic, because I expected like a 12-episode run, because that's generally how things go on Netflix, right? And excuse me, hold on. Things start to escalate in the 4th episode. I'm like, oh yeah, let's go to the 5th episode. What do you mean there's no 5th episode? What do you mean this is the first season? Like, why? Okay, sure, because that's how you end a season. It's goofy, but
yeah, because you would be like, oh, it's a Castlevania anime. They're gonna fight Dracula. Well, you know, they get together. They get the team together. Yeah. They say they're gonna go fight Dracula. They basically are like, let's go to the title screen in the season, and that's basically
that's
it. They end right as they're like, let's go to the castle.
Yeah,
done. So,
yeah, I hadn't actually. I'd heard some good things about it, but I hadn't checked it out because I don't really know the Castlevania story all that much. I played basically just one Castlevania game, and it's apparently the one that isn't really a real Castlevania or something.
Castlevania
I've heard
64?
It was the one where the title is Castlevania, some music term of something emo. You know, that one.
Oh, Aria of Silence? No.
Aria of Sorrow?
There we go.
It's either Aria of Sorrow or Harmony of Dissonance or one of the other 11, because it's fucking. I don't know. It was for the Game Boy Advance, and it's the one where you don't play as a Belmont. I think, like, you don't run around with a whip, and I think it was Aria of Sorrow.
Aria of Sorrow.
Yeah. So I played Aria of Sorrow, and that apparently just is like. Isn't really a Castlevania game or something. I don't know. Digitally, I don't remember Belmonts, so.
Well, if you play any of the OG Castlevanias that are literally side scrollers and not Metroid kind of games, those ones are all basically Belmonts. And then in the more recent ones, there's a couple that you'll play as a Belmont in, but they kind of started branching off from there and going into other subplots and side characters and stuff like that. The first one I played was Circle of the Moon, and you play as Ian Broadsher or something like that, who is in training along with the Belmonts, and basically, he learns the ropes while in Dracula's castle trying to save his master. I don't think that one was Simon Belmont, because that would be the original. But whatever. Yeah, Belmonts are always there, but they might not be the main character.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm excited to see what they do with season 2.
Yeah,
it would be pretty neat.
So I highly suggest watch Castlevania. It's only 4 hours long, but be prepared for it to end abruptly.
Also, I hope you are not very religious if you watch it, because you may not like the undertones and slight overtones there. They aren't very subtle about how they feel about God in it, so just
yeah. the way they painted a certain religious character, I thought up front, I was like, oh, it's that kind of character. And then I was like, oh, there's something more to him. And then it's like, oh, I guess that goes nowhere now. Okay, then.
Yeah. Oh god, I'm not sure if I want to spoil it, but how he dies is so good.
Yes, it is. And I was like,
okay, it's only 4 episodes and it's the first season, so if you don't see it, you're stupid. But basically, the apocalypse happens, everyone's getting murdered up the hill up here, and Belmont shows up to a city that's being attacked, and they're all like, at night we're pretty much at the whims of the monsters, you gotta basically run and hide. And so when they reach this apex, this one particular night where they're like, okay, we think we figured out why the devil hates us so much. We're going to kill this one person. And everyone, like, the main character's like, he told you he was coming back in a year to blow your shit up. And then he came back in a year and specifically told you guys, you pieces of shit, I told you I was going to blow this shit up. And then he does, and then they turn around and go, why is this happening? What did we do, God? We must kill these pagans. Like, oh my god, they're so dense. But the priest of this town's like, okay, I'm safe in the church because demons can't come in there. And then the demons come in there, and he's like, but this is the house of God. And they're like, you serve yourself. God hasn't been here in a long time. You know what? How about a kiss?
Yeah. It's so, and his backstory is cool because, well, I guess it's just gonna ruin everything in this.
Go see it.
Yeah, go see it. It's really good. But he's the reason why Dracula's new hotness got murdered at the stake, right? So he was all pious and said, "Oh, well, she's a demon," and so everything. He is honest with himself. He believes 100% in this religion, and everything he does is because of that religion. It's not because he's like underhanded or anything. It's just that he believes that he's doing, God's will, and so there's no inherent evil in the actions that he's doing. And so that part was like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. I like that. And then he died, and I was like, oh, I guess that character goes nowhere. Thanks.
But it was pretty nice. And yes, again, to reiterate, it's a fucking gruesome anime. So if you're squeamish at all about that kind of stuff, probably avoid it. Just read a little synopsis of it, because there's babies getting killed.
Yeah. It's pretty gnarly. Another thing, me and Eric have been watching Twin Peaks season 3, 20 years after season 2 happened. The show, you ever hear people like, oh, you just got to play 40 hours of the game and then it starts to get good? It's one of those things where the first 10 episodes are like, where are you going? Because there are so many threads and so many characters that you don't know, because it's built off of season 2, so there are characters that have evolved 20 years. And so he kind of has to go back and rewrite them, and there's characters where you're like, I don't understand why this bald lady is talking to a log to this Native American about this murder that happened 20 years ago. I have no idea why this is happening. So there's a main plot where, a little bit of backstory, some cops go into an apartment and they find a corpse in the bed. It's got a woman's head attached to a man's body. And they're like, that's not right. And and so like in the next scene, there's this guy in New York in some like SCP containment room where he's meant to sit down and watch this glass box, and there are all these cameras pointed at it, and his only job is to watch the box. And so he's doing it and he's watching it. Some girl comes by and wants to give him coffee. She's like, "Oh, you're kind of cute. You want some coffee?" He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I go see in there?" He's like, "No." She's like, "Please." He's like, "Okay, that's fine." So then they go into the room and they fuck on this couch, and then some SCP comes out and like eats their face off. And you're like, "Whoa, what happened there? What is going on?" Okay, that's interesting. So you've got the woman's head on the man's body, and you've got this SCP containment thing that happens. So you're like, okay, this is some cool, like, weird extraterrestrial horror stuff. And that the main guy is, like, trapped in some, like, extra-dimensional plane where people talk backwards and stuff. It's really... The first few episodes is really good. I was like, okay, this is really, really weird. Where's this going? And then there's about 8 episodes where nothing really progresses. Like, the story doesn't really progress. He introduces all these characters, and you're like, what about the body with the woman's head and the guy's thing and the SCP? What happened to that? That all doesn't get kind of wrapped up until, like, episode 10 or 11. And so it's a super, super, super slow burn. But it somehow works when you get to that point. And you're like, oh, then you start to see the threads that kind of connect everything. So if you have like infinite amount of patience, Twin Peaks is pretty good. But if you don't, then I wouldn't suggest it. It's for crazy people, honestly.
Well, if you spend an hour I was going to say every week, but let's be real, every month watching us, you probably worth your time.
But the main thing I want to talk about is I went to the Magic the Gathering Grand Prix here in Minneapolis last weekend. Yes. And my record was 4-4.
Hey, that's some extra packs, right?
Yeah.
It's some Planeswalker points, but not packs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but so me and Derek, we were testing the deck out. You can catch it on our YouTube channel. I was teching specifically for, I guess, mono black zombies and mono red aggro, right? Never came across either one of those. Half my sideboard was for those 2 specific decks. Never went against them. And they were like 30% of the field in total there, and I never went up against one of them. Never did. I was like, oh.
So it wasn't like a big switch on the meta. It was just you didn't follow.
I just didn't go against them. Because, okay, so, go for it.
How much did the way that Magic and Wizards of the Coast distributing information about the pre-releases and the releases in those first states? Because I know they didn't share the information as they usually did. Mm-hmm. How much did that influence that first round?
So here's the stupid thing. So they release tournament information and like top 32, top 64 and things like that. And a pro tour had happened the weekend prior. And so everyone already had all the information they needed going into it, which is why I didn't change my... Well, I kind of changed my deck because of that information I had. I think something weird happened is that a lot of people who didn't go the aggro route with either zombies or mono red, they went to heavy control because I got fucking wrecked by a 3-color control deck my first game. It was like counter, burn, nope, that's not happening. And I was like, oh, good. I guess you could play Magic and I can't. Excellent. But a lot of decks put in spot removal. There were so much fatal pushes and shocks and a braid, which is a 2-mana either deal 3 damage to target creature or destroy target artifact. There's just so much more spot removal than what I was expecting. So
I was sort of worried that was going to happen. That, like, don't get me wrong, I'm 100% for piloting your own deck and not jumping on the meta bandwagon, but because the meta was tons of really strong aggro, frankly, between those 2 decks, you piloting your own homebrew aggro, I was afraid everyone would come like armed for bear against aggro, and you would be playing not as top tier aggro.
Yeah,
and just get run into that wall and just face plant.
That's exactly what happened. And okay. I learned a couple of things about playing Magic in myself that I really like. don't take a homebrew to Grand Prix because that is a bad idea. Because the here's Friday Night Magic and like competition level, GPs are super super high, and I guess I was just illusions of grandeur at that point, but I didn't. It didn't really connect until about round two when I was like 1 and 2, and I was like, something is wrong. I did something really bad. I made some bad decisions. Um, so I kind of agree with you, Derek, about not jumping on the meta bandwagon. But at like Grand Prix, like everyone else is doing it. Like then why shouldn't I? If I go there expecting to do to day two at the bare minimum, I I can't take a homebrew. Like I don't have the deck building skills to read the meta that much.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a sneaker hit in there at times, or rather, I should say, a sneaker deck can pop up that people didn't see coming that was not meta and maybe like kind of like weaved its way through the meta because it was. But that's usually some like deck building genius pulls that off because if like if not only hundreds or thousands of people are piloting these meta decks, but among them is included basically most of the best Magic players in the world, there's a reason for it. Yeah. They're not. I mean, they definitely work well. It comes. There's a pretty decent sized card pool even in standard, but there's still a finite number of cards, and all of those working together and against each other, you're going to have certain things floating to the top. That's just going to be the way it is. So what I would usually do is basically just like rock the upper mid tier. That's like my thing and everything. Fighting games, trading card games, and whatnot. I would pick some interesting, fun, not necessarily as stable, net deck, and just kind of hope the RNG went in my favor. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Like, go to Friday Night Magic, bring the jank out, and confuse people with it. But yeah, I agree with you. A Grand Prix is you're not going to be able to have your fun with your jank. It's just going to fall over and be a pile of stuff.
So I forgot what I was going to say. So my experience there was a level of competition that I really appreciated that you don't get in Friday Night Magic. And now I definitely want to do more of that because I saw some pretty cool things. And there were, I think my misplays were at a minimum. There were some where I made a last minute switch like the day before I went up there, which was probably a very bad thing because there was a trigger that I had to keep account of that I never had to do before, and I missed so many of those triggers. And it's like, well, fuck, I messed up. I can't backseas and say, oh, you took 2 damage because they're gonna be like, no, fuck you, take 4.
Yeah.
But there's a level of competition that I didn't get for Friday Night Magic that I got there. So now I'm kind of addicted. I'm like, oh, I like how this feels. And if you really think about it, to go to day 2, you need a 6-3 record. Oh, by the way, we were supposed to play 9 matches, but I only played 8 because, okay, have you either been to a Grand Prix before?
I have not.
So we started playing at 9 a.m. By the time 5 or 6 came around, I'd finished game 8, and I still had 1 more to go. I had played close to 8 or 9 straight hours of Magic by that point, and I was gonna drop. I was at 2 and 4. I met some guy there. We became friends really quick because we came from the same parking lot and we were walking side by side. And we're like, going to Magic? Yeah, I'm Mo. I'm Will. Nice to meet you. So we kind of bonded over that. So by game 6, I was 2 and 4. And I had already learned everything about the deck. I was like, oh, well, this isn't going to work. I'm sideboarding all these cards. If I'm sideboarding all these cards all the time, they might as well be in my main deck. So I had already learned a lot about where I messed up and how I can go on, right? So I was at 2 and 4, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm kind of bored and I'm tired. We made a deal. We're like, all right, if we lose this next match, we'll both drop. But if we win, we'll play 1 more to try to get to 50%. I said, okay, cool. So game 5 or game 6, no, game 6, no, 7, sorry. 7 comes around. So I play and I win. I'm like,
What
okay,
episode are we on, Mo?
we're on 46, as it says right there.
We can count.
Yay! So game 7 comes around, and I win. I'm like, oh yes, thank the Lord. But he loses. He's like, okay, I'm out of here. Bye. And I'm like, I'm by myself now. My friend, my one day friend went away. So then I was like, okay, last game. So game 8 came around, and I won. And I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm done. Fuck game 9. I'm tired, and I want a beer. I'm over it right now. Like day 2, there were some side events that I wanted to go to, but I was like, I don't want to read another fucking magic card. I'm done. I'm over it. But it's grueling. So back to my original point, you need to go 6 and 3 to go to day 2. So I was only, if I can convert one of those losses to a win and get that second win, I would have went day 2. That's actually really, really good. And in hindsight, I was like, I can do that. Like, convert 2 wins? Hell yeah. Give me a meta deck and I'll play that shit. Yeah, I got this. No problem. And so it's that realization that it's like I mentioned this last time when I mentioned about Dark Souls. You get beat down like time and time again, but then I was like, you know what? I can do this. Like I have the skills to go to day 2 or do whatever it is. And so at that point I was like, okay, here we go. We got it. We got our goal. We're going to day 2 a GP.
By the way, the place that hosts Smash tournaments that we do down here in Arizona is thinking about also running Hearthstone tournaments. So I don't exactly understand the full reasoning there, but apparently it's pretty popular in the area. A lot of people have requested that somebody hold tournaments, but card shops don't want to do that. And so there's not really a good place to play Hearthstone face-to-face with people or have a tournament. You have to do it all online. So he's like, okay, well, I'll just set up like a bunch of... have people bring in their PCs, might have a couple laying around just to use, and just start doing Hearthstone tournaments. I'm like, well, you know what? If I show up to that and I can play in that, I think I'd probably do pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm not the best deck builder, but Hearthstone seems to be interesting, so maybe I'll get interested in that. And I think the bigger payoff there, or the more direct reason for doing that, is to get people to come into the Smash community by being like in the same building as where that's going on. If that's the plan, then that may work out. I'm not really sure. There's a lot of overlap in those communities, but see. If anything, I'll give a different game a shot, but I don't see myself playing card games in tournaments very often.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating ordeal for me.
Speaking of that, there was one downside that wasn't necessarily part of the GP itself. It's more about Wizards' messaging. So, like I mentioned earlier, the gap from Friday Night Magic to the GP is huge. It's ginormous. There were a lot of people there that I'm guessing didn't expect that, because there are a lot of salty ass motherfuckers, and you can.
Yes.
And you can normally tell someone who's salty because like they got a bad beat or something, and someone who's salty because they didn't understand what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, but I can't lose. I'm awesome.
Okay, so when you're playing, they fit like 2 or 3 of us to a table, so we're kind of shoulder to shoulder, so I can kind of look over and see what's going on in these other matches, right? The guy to the right, there was someone who was running mono red and someone who was running a control deck, I think, which is already a bad matchup for the mono red, so I felt kind of bad for the kid. So my opponent's thinking about something, so I'm holding pattern right now. The mono red cast something to look at the control person's hand, and it was like counterspell, burn, counterspell. And I was like, I look over like, that sounds like a whole bunch of no. Like I was trying to be comical and be like, everyone was talking like, that sounds like a whole lot of you not doing anything. And the mono red guy gave me this look like I had stabbed his mom or something. I was like, whoa. Did I say something wrong? Like, was this a bad time? And apparently it was, because he got swiftly 2-0'd. And so while he's packing up, he's like, this motherfucking game. Mono red isn't even the top deck. I don't even know why I brought it. Fucking control, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hold up. First of all, mono red is the deck to beat. You apparently aren't a good pilot. Second of all, why are you're the one who net decked the #1 deck. I don't know why you're mad because you got beat by a control deck, which is the counter to your deck. I don't know why you're extra.
Exactly.
I don't know why you're extra salty about that.
Motherfucking stupid paper. I shouldn't have brought rock to this game. Paper's always here to ruin my game. God.
Right.
Where's all the scissors?
Right.
Where's all the scissors?
And so there was that dude, and I was like, whoa, I understand why you're mad at me. My apologies. And then later on, there's this girl who went up against a mill deck, which I was like, mill and standard? That's odd. Okay, whatever. But she was super mad. She's like, well, I'm just mad at you because you discarded my Wink Edition. How else am I supposed to win this game? She's like, oh, there goes my removal. I hope you're happy. And I'm like, oh my god, that's the point of mill. Why are you mad?
It's just game. Why you have to be mad?
And so there's a bunch of players who tried to make this jump, but the communication wasn't, Wizards didn't communicate that, hey, this is a higher level of competition that you may not be aware of.
I think that's implicit. I'm sorry, but whenever you're talking about like a national tour with like a ranking point system compared to Friday Night Magic, I think you should expect there to be a higher caliber of competition there. Like I wouldn't expect a state tournament for Smash to be at the same caliber as a regional or national. Like, you just gotta expect there to be a higher concentration of good players there. Bye, Derek.
Well, he'll be back. He should possibly. Well, he came back like seconds later. Last time it happened.
Well, to throw some more salt on the fire, when I was doing warm-ups at the tournament on Saturday, I sat down next to this guy, started playing some games. He was trying. I played Samus. I kicked his butt a little bit too hard, so I started playing other characters. Right. And then after like 5 or 6 games, he just started suiciding constantly. Like, I'd hit him once, and he would just let himself fall to his death. And I'm like, what are you even doing, man? Like, I can't practice against that. You're not practicing anything. If you just let yourself constantly die, you're just wasting both of our time. Right. So I just unplugged my stuff and got up. I don't even know if he entered the tournament, but man, like, what are you? You're getting salty over friendlies. Like, we're not even in the tournament yet. And you're getting super upset because you're losing to some. I ended up getting 4th place, so out of like 40 some people, I think.
Nice.
So not too bad. I wanted to get a little bit higher. I could have gotten 1 place higher if I had been a little bit better, but regardless, no regrets. But yeah, I have terrible competitive mentality. I can get super salty about a lot of stuff. I do get upset about things, but at the end of the day, I'm still gonna like fist bump you and say GG.
Right.
I'm still gonna like go through the motions, even if on the inside all I want to do is go outside and just.
Yeah, but I think part of it is the messaging from Wizards. The other part is there's no gradient between Friday Night Magic and a GP. It's a pretty it's kind of a standard showdown, like somewhere in here, but not a lot of people know about it, and it's not really kind of advertised. So I think that's the major problem, is that there's no incremental step from Friday Night Magic to GPs. And I don't know how to fix that personally, but I definitely saw a lot of people that were surprised at all the net decks and everything else that was going on. But yeah, so you mentioned you got 4th place out of 40. I think I got 651st out of like 1,200 people. So right in the middle of the pack.
I can go and see if that challenge is still up. Tournament brackets. Oh, that was from Saturday. It might be a little while back there. Derek, do you know if Gigantic is doing any kind of circuit, or are they being actually smart and not being eSports until they actually get stuff under their wings?
I'm not sure. Like, I know that they're trying to make a game that has competition in mind, but I haven't seen them, pushing any kind of
we lost him again,
In
didn't we?
any kind of
He might be having a stroke.
tournament,
Oh.
bake sale. Oh, there he is.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I have lately I haven't been keeping much tabs on it because I can't play it or really do anything with it. But I know that they have competitive play in mind. I just don't know if that they've necessarily been pushing for any like early post-release tournaments or anything like that, which I would be sort of worried about. What I've seen has mostly been in the way they design the game. They're trying to build it to be competitive play friendly, which I've talked a bit about in the past. The way they set up their interface and the map and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I've been kind of out of the loop on it because I don't know. I mean, I can't play it, so I'm just sort of like.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to run through Extra Life because that is coming up ever so fast, and I realized it was.
Yeah.
I had a little panic attack inside, so I was like, "Oh God, I gotta get ready for this shit again." Extra Life is.
It was actually 61 entrants, and I got 4th place.
Nice.
So a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
So, Extra Life is going to be October 21st and 22nd, 2017. Instead of gaming for 24 hours straight, we're going to be dividing it into two 12-hour blocks because it becomes a trash fire after hour 10, and nobody wants to see that. So, we're running two 12-hour blocks. Zane's going to be there. Zane, Toby, Fletcher's going to be there. Couple other people are going to be there as well.
Is Captain Morgan or Sailor Jerry?
I believe they're both slated to fly in as well. So,
awesome.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. We've got a D&D campaign ran by Corey herself at some point in time. We've got
I started a campaign last week, by the way. That was another thing I needed to hit on my stuff. I started a 5th edition campaign, so I'll be in the swing of things by the time we get into the Extra Life campaign.
So
Awesome. She's
doing a campaign. Derek's bringing some board games over. That was actually the wrong way to point because you're reversed on this whatever. So I had an idea that I wanted to throw to you two really quick. It's kind of spur of the moment. So I had an idea of doing a bunch of competitive games over the 2-day period between all of us and having some stupid point system where
they're made up and they don't matter.
Right, they're made up and they don't matter. But to have some kind of competition going on to keep viewers, is Corey going to eke out 3rd place? What about Mo? Is he going to stay in 84th even though there's 10 people playing?
That could be one of our donation perks. You can put yourself in last place right above Mo by donating $10. See how low we can get Mo's placing.
Yes, that is the best idea. Let me write that down before I forget. So stupid things we're gonna be okay, we're gonna play Uno because that's a highly competitive game that nobody wants to play, but we're gonna play it anyway. Or not keep talking, nobody explodes. Shit, whatever. NBA Jam. I can get NBA Jam. Be there we go, 2-on-2, go. And the winning team gets X amount of points or whatever. Or Mario Party or Mario Kart, things like that.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Awesome.
I'd say we get a fair number of games that at least that basically nobody is actually good at.
Oh, of course,
yeah. Because we pull out and now we're gonna play Smash.
No, it'll be
you do one-handed or something.
It'll be Mario Kart or
okay.
Be yeah, we'll play Smash, and next we'll do kickboxing, guys. I want to win one too.
I could probably take a couple kicks. That's how you get points, right? It's last person standing.
Drunk
Rocky.
Drunken chest bump.
So I'm gonna get all that set up, and so if you watch the stream, root for your favorite person competing, and hope they win. There we go.
And to
Donation.
remind everyone, the donation incentives for the D&D campaign are going to run pretty much all around there too, because there's going to be a lot of what you can pay to influence on the characters and the campaign itself, which will make it a lot more interesting and a bit more interactive. And the way the campaign's going to play out, the stream viewers will have somewhat of a participatory role outside of even contributing money for things. So keep that in mind. If you're interested in watching the campaign or anything leading up to it, keep your eye on it because you may be able to determine the fate of our heroes.
Nice.
Sounds good. I'm meaning to pick your brain on that because I've been trying to come up with a really, really entertaining character to play. And I have some thoughts. So I need to pick your brain and make sure I'm not thinking of something that I can't do.
Okay, because I was already thinking about having prefabs that people were going to basically vote on, but we could always do it a little bit more.
Oh, that sounds really cool. I like that idea.
We could easily do that. I mean, I can improv, but if we're not, then I want to make
we
it.
could
really
still have people make we could still sit down and do 3 characters each, and then have people vote between the 3 characters. Stuff like that. There's options, and there's time to think about those options.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yep. So once again, I already forgot the date. October 21st and 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
More information will be up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Secret Calival Podcast.
It's on the screen.
It is on. Oh, it is on the screen. I forgot that happens.
right
there. So yeah, look at that. We also have a Twitter, which is also been flashing on the screen too. I don't even know what that is. Our email is on there too, because I can't remember what that is either.
Oh, God. We're the best.
We're professional podcasters, through and through.
Yes.
All right. Let's get out of here. You guys have anything else you want to add?
No.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Well, thank you for listening and watching the episode 46 of the Secret Calival Podcast. You guys have a nice night.
Bye.
Bye, folks.